Over 50 dead as Helene unleashes life-threatening flooding. Helene continues to unleash its fury across the southeast after leaving at least 55 people dead in 5 states, leveling communities, knocking out power, and stranding many in floodwaters following the historic storm's landfall in Florida's Big Bend region Thursday night as a monstrous Category 4 hurricane. Here's the latest. Dam break no longer imminent. The National Weather Service in Morristown, Tennessee, has extended the flash flood warning for towns and cities immediately below the Nolichucky Dam on the Nolichucky River until 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday, as dam operators had reported excessive water flow over the dam. The dam had been facing a potential imminent breach but no longer is, the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency announced at a noon news conference. The agency worked with Tennessee Valley Authority to confirm that the Nolichucky is not in that state anymore and that we have no dam failures that are reported at the moment, FEMA Chief of Staff Alex Pelham said.
The Nolichucky is not in that state anymore and we have no dam failures that are reported at the moment.
Deaths across 5 states. Over 50 storm-related deaths have been reported in South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, and Virginia. At least 19 are dead in South Carolina, including 2 firefighters in Saluda County, according to state officials. In Georgia, at least 17 people have died, 2 of them killed by a tornado in Alamo, according to a spokesperson for Governor Brian Kemp. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Saturday morning raised the number of confirmed dead there to 11, including several people who drowned in Pinellas County. 6 more deaths were reported in North Carolina, and they include a car wreck on a storm-slick road that killed a 4-year-old girl. And in Craig County, Virginia, 1 person died in a storm-related tree fall and building collapse, Governor Glenn Youngkin said Friday.
Federal Emergency Management Agency Administrator Deanne Criswell is on the ground in Florida on Saturday, surveying damage and assessing the need for federal resources. FEMA says it has more than 800 deployed staff supporting states affected by the hurricane. Our distribution centers are fully stocked and ready to provide commodities and equipment to any impacted state as required.
Among those involved are the Department of Homeland Security, the Coast Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Salvation Army, the release said. The American Red Cross said at least 1,900 people remained at about 80 shelters after evacuation orders were lifted. Additional rainfall is expected this weekend across portions of the southern Appalachian region. Additional totals of up to 1 inch are expected for areas of western North Carolina, including Asheville and eastern Tennessee, including Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. Up to 2 inches is possible for portions of Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania through Monday. Although rainfall amounts will be light, areas that received excessive rainfall from Helene may see isolated aggression of excessive runoff, the National Weather Service office in Greenville-Spartanburg said Saturday morning. More than 400 roads remain closed in western North Carolina, the State Department of Transportation said Saturday morning. All roads in western NC should be considered closed, the Post on X says. Since Thursday, Buncombe County has received over 5,911 calls and conducted more than 130 swift water rescues. Officials warned residents to stay away from the water because of downed power lines, sewage contamination, and debris. An emergency shelter is currently serving 400 people at the WNC Agricultural Center near Asheville Regional Airport. Water conservation urged. Residents in the Greenville, Tennessee area are being urged to conserve as much water as possible after flooding due to heavy rainfall along the Nolichucky River washed out all of the Chuckey Utility District's water lines crossing the river. Repairs to the water lines are expected to take place as soon as conditions are safe for everyone, the utility district said. Storm rescue missions underway. Nearly 4,000 National Guardsmen were conducting rescue efforts in 21 counties across Florida, the Defense Department said Friday. North Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama have also activated Guardsmen. The Biden administration has also mobilized more than 1,500 federal personnel to support communities affected by Helene, Vice President Kamala Harris said Friday. Severe flooding in North Carolina. Helene is one of the worst storms in modern history for parts of North Carolina, Governor Roy Cooper said. Western parts of the state were slammed by heavy rains and strong winds bordering on hurricane-strength levels, life-threatening flash flooding numerous landslides and power outages. More than 100 people were rescued from high waters, the governor said.
More than 2 feet of rain fell in the state's mountainous region from Wednesday morning to Friday morning, with Busick recording a total of 29.58 inches in just 48 hours. In the hard-hit city of Asheville, a citywide curfew was in effect until 7:30 a.m. Saturday, officials said. About 20 miles southwest of Asheville, overwhelming torrential rainfall was pushing the Lake Lure Dam into imminent failure, according to the National Weather Service, but Rutherford County officials said early Saturday the dam is no longer at risk. Engineers controlled the flow rate, according to Rutherford County Emergency Management, but the town is still experiencing cell and internet service issues along with roadways blocked by fallen trees and power lines.
More than 3 million without power. The remnants of Helene continued to knock out power for several states across the eastern U.S. on Saturday morning, with nearly 3.3 million customers left in the dark in South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, and Ohio, according to poweroutage.us. Florida and Ohio, according to poweroutage.us. The threat isn't over. Helene's remnants will continue to bring rain and gusty winds over hundreds of miles of the east. Multiple states have recorded more than a foot of rain, with at least 14 different flash flood emergencies issued for approximately 1.1 million people in the southern Appalachians of western North Carolina and adjacent parts of Tennessee, South Carolina, and Virginia. In addition to the rainfall, winds continued to gust 30 to 50 miles per hour over the Ohio and Tennessee Valley regions Friday evening, and more than 35 million people were under wind alerts heading into Saturday. Dozens rescued from hospital roof in Tennessee. More than 50 people stranded on the roof of Unicoi County Hospital in Irwin, Tennessee, were rescued after rapidly rising waters from Helene made evacuation impossible Friday morning, Ballad Health said. Helene has caused numerous disruptions to travel and delivery services. Several Amtrak trains arriving or departing Florida and Georgia have been canceled, the company said. Delivery services were also impacted, with UPS announcing it has suspended service to Florida, North Carolina, and Georgia because of the storm. FedEx likewise suspended or limited its service in 5 states. Water inundated countless roadways across the region, making them impassable. In North Carolina, 290 roads were closed throughout the state, and Governor Roy Cooper said the state's transportation department is shutting down even more roadways as severe flooding, landslides, and washed-out roads pose serious threats to public safety. Helene is now a post-tropical cyclone. Helene, the strongest hurricane on record to slam into Florida's Big Bend region, is now a post-tropical cyclone with winds of 35 miles per hour, according to the National Hurricane Center. That means Helene no longer has an organized center of circulation and is losing its hurricane-like features. But this change doesn't alter much of Helene's overall threat going forward, as Helene will continue to unleash heavy, flooding rainfall and gusty winds. Keith Turi of FEMA warned residents of the dangers remaining from Helene even after it passes. There are a lot of dangers in those floodwaters. Things you can see and sometimes things you can't see that are going under the surface, and so really you need to stay out of those floodwaters, Turi told CNN. Trapped at home? I really don't know what to do. Jennifer Replogle, a pregnant mother of 2 young children, is completely trapped at home in Tater Hill, North Carolina, elevation 4,200 feet above Boone, where hurricanes are not the norm.
"We weren't prepared for this," she said via text early Saturday morning. "The roads are gone, like completely gone. Power has been out since early Friday," she said. Replogle said she has no food and is running out of water. "The few narrow, windy roads from the mountain into Boone are impassable," she said. "Our basement flooded yesterday. If they don't get somebody to us soon, I really don't know what to do," Replogle said. She is worried about the plumbing and water services business she and her husband own. They have seen a photo of it with the parking lot flooded and fear we have lost most of everything. Their employees are also trapped at home or staying with friends, Replogle said.
Florida and Georgia communities devastated. Helene cut a massive path of destruction across Florida, Georgia, and the southeastern U.S., snapping trees and power lines and mangling hundreds of homes. As millions were left without essentials like electricity, and some with nowhere to return to after the ravaging storm, rescue crews set out to save people trapped in wreckage or underwater. In Cedar Key, Florida, the devastation is so widespread, any sewage water or power, so there's really not a whole lot to be able to sustain people being here, Cedar Key Mayor Sue Colson said. Scores of historical buildings and new homes have been decimated while roads were blocked by downed wires and extremely dangerous debris, the mayor said. It's just a multifaceted mess, Colson said. Another small, tight-knit Florida community, Keaton Beach, is picking up the pieces of their lives left behind by the ravages of Helene.
You look at Keaton Beach, almost every home was destroyed, or the vast majority, and some totally obliterated. It's because they had such a massive surge that went in there. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said Friday, adding that the storm surge might have been as high as 20 feet. The town's Beach Bums gas station was 3 days away from celebrating the 5-year anniversary of its opening when it collapsed, said owner Jared Hunt, who spent the morning helping residents look for personal belongings, salvaging what's left. One Keaton Beach resident stood with his wife in front of the wreckage of what used to be their home, wondering where they might go next. "Man, I just lost my house. I have nowhere else to go," Eric Church told CNN. "My house is laying here in a pile. It was sitting right there. There are just pillars left in the ground. I got a wife and 2 dogs with me. What am I supposed to do?" Church's wife, Erin Pilar, said the couple had just purchased the home and expected some water from the hurricane, not for the house to disappear. "The house has been here for 75 years, and that's the whole reason we bought it 6 months ago. Having faith it would be here for another 75, Pilar said. DeSantis said he believes Hurricane Helene inflicted more damage than Hurricane Idalia in 2023, which at the time was the strongest hurricane to make landfall in Florida's Big Bend region in more than 125 years. Over in Georgia, multiple people were trapped after at least 115 structures in the southern city of Valdosta in Lowndes County were heavily damaged by Helene, Governor Brian Kemp said Friday. "The damage to our community is substantial and appears much worse than Hurricane Idalia," the Lowndes County Emergency Management said on its Facebook page.
Complete pandemonium amid North Carolina floodwaters. Residents of Asheville, North Carolina described complete pandemonium in their city after Helene brought several feet of floodwater and pushed large debris into streets overnight. Samuel Hayes said he woke up with several calls from his employees telling him about fallen trees on their roofs, water pouring into their homes, and mudslides.
Complete pandemonium around the city, Hayes told CNN's Isabel Rosales. "It's going to take us a long time to clean this up." Hayes and another Asheville native, Maxwell Klein, described the River Arts District neighborhood as being inundated with oil-contaminated floodwaters. "A lot of businesses are completely wrecked. I've never seen anything like that since I've lived here. It's absolutely a tragedy," Klein said. "Gas pumps were down and they lost power, internet and cell phone service for hours," they said. "Can't get anything right now. No food you can buy, no gas, nothing," Klein said. About 25 miles outside of Asheville, a lifelong resident of Hendersonville said she was traumatized by the onslaught of Helene. "I never knew anything like this could happen here," Avery Dull, 20, told CNN. Dull and her neighbors were extremely unprepared for the deluge, and she saw at least one person busting out of their window, she said. "But her apartment is still intact because it's on the second floor," Dull said. "Luckily, we were on high ground, but those people lost everything," Dull said. "Half of my neighborhood is underwater and dozens of families are trapped inside of their homes. Cars have been completely submerged and totaled, and power is out across the county." Elsewhere in North Carolina, shattered glass, rocks and mud covered one couple's car after a landslide triggered by Helene came crashing down onto Interstate 40 as they were driving through Black Mountain. Kelly Keffer said her husband saw something coming from the corner of his eye, and then they started to hear pounding on top of the car, so he stepped on the gas. "Then the whole side of the mountain started sliding," Alan Keffer said. Alan thought they would be able to speed past it, but it slid faster than he thought. "Within less than a minute, the rocks, the dirt, everything hit us. It was scary," he said. "The back window was completely shattered," Kelly said. In Erwin, Tennessee, just over 40 miles north of Asheville, North Carolina, flooding submerged houses, buildings, and roadways. Erwin resident Nathan Farner said he evacuated the area on Friday afternoon when his home was slightly above water level. Then he fled to an area a few miles away that is at higher ground. The power remains out, and it appears that most businesses, homes, and campgrounds near the river have suffered a total loss, Farner said. Sadly, the situation does not appear to be improving.